Of course, this is the first episode that we've recorded since the official confirmation of the news that Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson will be switching seats from the Japanese Grand Prix onwards. The team confirmed it, obviously, the day after we recorded, which is par for the course at this point.
Obviously.
Christian Horner said the following in a statement: "It has been difficult to see Liam struggle at the first two races, and as a result, we have collectively taken the decision to make an early switch. We came into the 2025 season with two ambitions: to retain the World Drivers' Championship and to reclaim the World Constructors' title, and this is purely a sporting decision. We acknowledge there is a lot of work to be done with the RB21, and Yuki's experience will prove highly beneficial in helping to develop the current car. We have a duty of care to protect and develop Liam, and together we see that after such a difficult start, it makes sense to act quickly so Liam can gain experience as he continues his F1 career with VCARB, an environment and a team he knows very well." I know we gave our thoughts on on a possible switch on Wednesday, knowing that it was almost definitely going to happen, but now we've actually got some rationale from Christian Horner.
Have we?
Thoughts? Oh, well, are those your thoughts?
This has been highlighted by a few people, but the line about duty of care towards Liam Lawson is absolute nonsense. I had to try really hard not to swear. That is, you might as well. Who approved that line in whatever press release they put out for this? Because that is. It's laughable, because it's not a duty of care towards Liam Lawson. A duty of care towards Liam Lawson would be put your arm around him, give him more than 2 races. We've had 2 races, and one of them was a sprint weekend. He had 1 practice session, and the other one was a rain-affected first race. Both of these circuits he didn't even race at previously. So a duty of care would to give him at least a track he'd been to before. There are so many things that are frustrating about this, but that line in itself is just the absolute brass neck of it. What are you talking about? How can you say duty of care towards a driver you've dumped after? I mean, mentally for Liam Lawson, this, I sincerely hope it doesn't, and I hope he bounces back. But that is mentally crushing, because he's not been given. The first 2 races were terrible, and we will say that they were not good. But he's just not been given a fair chance here, and I'm not sure. Look, Tsunoda is driving really well at the moment, but I'm just not sure what this is going to achieve for Red Bull. And the most frustrating thing is, they could have done this in the winter.
I'm shook of.
In the opposite. In fact, they could have had to make the decision at all. They could have just picked a different driver for their Red Bull seat. This is an absolute mess, and it's like they're flailing about now, because I'm really not sure what. I really hope Tsunoda does well at Suzuka, but again, he's not driven this car. You're going to give it to him on one of the most driver technical circuits on the planet and go, off you go, Yuki, be better than that. Okay, fine. Oh, I'm sorry, it's his home race as well. So for both of these drivers, this sucks. It's crap. It's a load of absolute crap.
I mean, your point on him not having driven the Red Bull properly before, I know he did a day in the Abu Dhabi test, but a point that was raised, I think, by Bernie Collins relating to Liam Lawson rather than Yuki Tsunoda, but I guess it's true for both, is that you look at Antonelli's preparation for F1, and he didn't have a long junior career. They really accelerated him through the junior series, but they did give him quite an extensive testing of previous cars program.
Yeah.
They haven't really done that for either Lawson or Tsunoda to get them fully prepared for what we know is a pretty difficult car to drive. I landed on the same spot as you did in terms of the duty of care line to Liam Lawson. I'm not sure there's a world where I would have fully believed Christian Horner when he was saying that anyway, but it makes it even more difficult to believe when 2 sentences prior, he said it's a sporting decision. You were right the first time. You can't, it's not both. Like, you made the sporting decision, without duty of care in mind. So I don't really buy that. I understand where he says that their objectives are to reclaim the Constructors' Championship and also win the Drivers' Championship again. But, I mean, sure, like, that's not a surprise. Of course, that should have been their objective heading into the season. And guess what? They would have been your objectives in December when you made the decision to go with Lawson rather than Tsunoda. It just doesn't make any sense. And the other line about Yuki Tsunoda's experience being helpful in developing the RB21 that hasn't started out brilliantly well. No disrespect to Yuki Tsunoda. I don't buy that either. Like, they're not making this move because, you know what? We've got a lot of great engineers around. We've got Max Verstappen, who's been in this car a long time, but I think Yuki Tsunoda's experience could be the difference.
He's the key.
He's the key. We've all been missing it up until now. That's the guy.
It's the guy with 89 races under his belt. Knew it.
Set up genius Yuki Tsunoda. How did we see this? Come on.
For goodness sake.
Don't buy any of it.
No, it's just rubbish. It's because they made the wrong call in the first place and they're trying to backtrack. But it's so obvious. Just don't do it. Don't do it, lads.
Is this set in stone now? Like, might Red Bull actually stick with this version of their lineups for the rest of the year? Or could you see a situation where they switch again?
They have to. Otherwise, Japan will come for them. All of Japan. They cannot. You're messing with these drivers' emotions and mentalities here. You cannot switch them again back the other way around because they're going to do it, aren't they?
Well, that's the
thing. No! I hadn't considered that as an option yet. Oh no. Because what if he look, if Tsunoda comes in and it has as much trouble with this car as Liam Lawson does and is qualifying at the back, that's to be expected because, again, he's not driven this car yet. If he has 2 races where he's as bad, you go, well, that's fair enough because he hasn't driven this car at all. What do they do then? They'll go back.
Sebastian Buemi might get the call up.
I mean, hey, he would probably say yes.
He would say yes, no doubt.
Scott Speed's back on the radar for Red Bull.
So it reminds me of something in the paddock with Scott Speed a long time ago. There's a great clip out there, but not one to be shared.
Oh Lord, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them because even by Red Bull standards, after 2 races is obscenely savage. And who knows? They could well swap them back, and that would be horrendous for all involved. And I think this podcast will actually implode. I think we'd pop.
We're fairly close already. I think that might tip us over the edge.
Yeah.
I mean, my instinct is that they won't make the switch because that would be logical, but Red Bull seem to be doing things illogically nowadays. So I don't know if it wouldn't surprise me if they did switch them again, but my instinct says they don't. I just think with Liam Lawson, I know he's only done 2 races and they're feeding us the line about him getting more experience and the like. Think back to Pierre Gasly and the amount of good work he did after he was dropped from Red Bull. Now, he did a few more than 2 races, but he still only did half a season. The amount of good work he did in Toro Rosso and then AlphaTauri, and still he could not find a way back into that seat. Even when there was pressure on Sergio Perez and he was an option there, ready. He had great seasons with AlphaTauri. Helmut Marko and Christian Horner didn't even seem to entertain the idea. So after what they've seen from Lawson in the first 2 races, even if Tsunoda struggles this year and Lawson picks up where Tsunoda left off in the junior team, I still don't know if they'll make the switch because what if they switch and the same thing happens again? Like, they're just going to go back and forth like nonstop. I don't think they will.
God. Ridiculous people.
Even if Lawson doesn't get back into that seat this year, is there a future for him at Red Bull at large?
Well, if you want to base it on the evidence of previous drivers who've been dumped by Red Bull, no is the answer. they've decided they're not made it back. I read when this news broke, I think it was Autosport reported this. It was just a little throwaway line in a paragraph where they said that Red Bull approached Alex Albon over the winter, and he was like, "Nah." Do you know what? I'm out. I don't want to do that.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Why has everyone been sat on that bit of info? But that's funny. That is funny. Alex is like, do you know what? I'm okay. I'd rather have a Williams right now. Rather a Williams.
Pass.
Hard pass. But yeah, I think if you go on the basis of people like Albon, Gasly, Danny Kvyat, hey, he might be in line to come back, to be honest.
It's about time.
It's about time. But they've never made it. It's your one chance and done, which is why this is so extremely savage, because he's not had a chance. He's had 2 races. That this is, I guess, special circumstances. So you say there is some possibility that he could come back to Red Bull, especially if he proved himself again in the Racing Bull. The thing is, I don't know what they want from him now. What do they want from Liam Lawson at this point? Because what do they need to see that they haven't already seen last year? What's going to make them go, all right, you're ready to come back? Because he might well do better in the Racing Bull, but maybe because he hasn't got Helmut Marko looking at him all the time and Christian Horner on him. But I don't know. I don't understand what's the criteria for them to bring him back into that team, which is why I doubt that it will happen, because I just don't see the way back for them. I mean, look at Gasly. Gasly got demoted to Toro Rosso, as it was then, and then AlphaTauri, and drove brilliantly from there. He
couldn't have done much more.
No, and they just would not let him back. Would not let him back in that team when he could have been a viable option. End of 2020, very viable option to take that seat, and they didn't. They gave it to Perez instead. I'm not saying that was the wrong thing, but it's like there's no way back, even if you're driving superbly. So that's why I'm questioning what Liam Lawson could do now to even get back in that team.
Yeah, I'm the same, because if for Gasly, we remember last time argument won out, every chance the same thing happens here with Liam Lawson, where even if he does perform well in that junior team for an extended period of time, Helmut Marko and Christian Horner and every other decision maker at Red Bull might still remember the time and go, yeah, but those 2 races, what if that happens again? We're in deep trouble. So if I was a betting man, I'd probably say right now that he won't get back in that seat at all. And I'm not sure he'll be in F1 next year. I hope that they at least give him the chance to develop and then do consider him for a seat in the future. But my instinct is they don't.
What is the scenario? What is this situation when we get to Saturday and Liam Lawson has just out-qualified Yuki Tsunoda?
Entirely possible. It's entirely possible.
What do they do then?
I just don't. I'm waiting by my phone thinking I might get the call up at this rate.
DC thinks he's got a chance of coming back, I reckon, and Webber.
Yeah, I reckon they'll both do a good job. I mean, what should the team's strategy be from this point onwards? I appreciate all 3 of us were clever enough not to get ourselves into this scenario, which is the first time I've ever been able to say all 3 of us are clever enough. But if you're in their shoes now, what's the longer term plan
for Red Bull?
Yeah,
you got to go outside. I'm sorry, you've got to go outside the program again, because who?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the only driver who I think is like elite enough to be in consideration is George Russell, and I don't think Verstappen's going to allow that.
No, and I think George will be like, oh, maybe not.
But I don't know who's option number 2.
The problem is George Russell is the option if Max Verstappen decides he's had enough of this rubbish and goes to Mercedes.
In which case you need another driver again.
So then you need 2 drivers. This is what I mean. I think they have to go outside the pool again, because they got themselves into this situation with Perez before Perez, and then they were like, fine, we've got to go outside of our junior talent pool because we've binned off 2 in like the last 2 years, and we can't make them quick enough. So they did that. They gave themselves a buffer with Perez in the car, and it allowed people like Lawson to come up. I know there was the Ricciardo debacle, but Lawson to come up, Tsunoda, And now, obviously, Isaac Hadjar, they started to build up a pool of them. But already, they've binned off one of that pool immediately. And Tsunoda could be, if it doesn't go well for Tsunoda, that could be 2 gone in a year. That's better than they were doing with Gasly and Albon. That was over 2 years.
Yeah.
Here they're now averaging 2 a year. So I think they might have to do the same again because it's just not going to work. With bringing a junior driver into that team, if that's the chance they're going to be given, you need someone here. They want that. What they're after, Red Bull, is a junior driver with the experience of a driver who's been there for 10 years. Fernando Alonso. That's the next one then.
You can imagine Alonso going away from Aston Martin just before. I mean, that would be very vintage, Alonso to move away from Aston Martin. Yeah. I was kind of thinking the same as you, like they might have to look outside of the pool of drivers and then stumbling upon, there isn't anyone. This really stems back. I was thinking about this. The Nick de Vries hiring of him, that has really cost them. I know that was a couple of years ago, but the knock-on effect of them hiring Nick de Vries and that not working out, because if he wasn't in that seat, it might well have just gone to Lawson straight away, in which case he has a lot more experience before making the decision ahead of 2025, in which case they either have more data to work with to hire him or more data to work with not to hire him. And I feel like it's a more informed decision. And it all goes back to that. I think they'll just be praying that the Yuki Tsunoda decision or Yuki Tsunoda just being in that seat works out for them. And maybe they can give him a 1-year deal for 2026 as well. Because if it doesn't work out, I don't know what they're going to do. I do think Lawson and Hadjar should remain at VCARB for the rest of this year. And then I think at that point, you start to consider whether Arvid Lindblad can replace one of those. But ultimately, they need a reliable second driver alongside Verstappen. And if it's not going to be Tsunoda, I don't know who it's going to be. The other thing just wanted to touch on as well as part of this, you might have seen that Max Verstappen liked an Instagram post from everyone's favourite driver, Udo van der Gaard.
Everyone's favourite, Van der Gaard, obviously.
Yep. What did you make of that? I mean, as part of that, Van der Gaard said, in my opinion, this comes closer to bullying or a panic move than actual high athlete achievements. He mentions that they crushed Lawson's spirits. And Verstappen has liked this post.
All facts, I think, from Van der Gaard there. Look, they're quite good friends, aren't they, Van der Gaard and Verstappen? But if you are, Matt, I mean, he can't help being that good because he's not helped that situation. But even he will recognise that this is just an unfair move, and yeah, like I say, he can't help being that good. But he's the bar. Don't know why that was difficult to say. The bar for these drivers to get to, and they obviously are all struggling to do that. But he must recognise that it's too savage, and he wants to win, and for him to have a teammate that he can. I know he's very much Max for himself. He doesn't like team orders, etc. But having a teammate is more than just having to beat them on track. Often cars improve in teams when teammates feedback off each other. That is generally how it works. I mean, go back to the Schumacher days. Schumacher and Barrichello. Barrichello wasn't beating Schumacher very often, but as a team, they actually worked well. And obviously, they did lots of testing, but they would bounce off each other. And I think Verstappen probably realizes this. It's been chaotic. He's been winning championships, and all around him, it's just that gif of that person running. It's just like fire explosions going off everywhere. That's him running towards championships, but around him is absolute carnage. And Max is a human after all, and I think he must recognise that this is a pretty savage move from his own team.
Yeah, I think whilst there were elements of the post from Van der Gaard that were supportive of Liam Lawson and hoping that he was going to recover from this, so there was reason enough to like a post in that sense. But Max Verstappen's not stupid. Like, he would have he would have seen everything that Van der Gaar put in that post and knowingly liked it, knowing what it would look like, what the optics of it are. So I think, yeah, for anyone who thinks that he might have just made an error, or I don't see that at all. I think this was very intentional. And honestly, at this point, Red Bull desperately needs to keep Verstappen happy, because it's increasingly become a one-person team at Red Bull, given Adrian Newey's departure and Sergio Perez's departure. It's to the point now where they are so Verstappen dependent. And if you look back, I was thinking back to like 2017 and the comparison between Red Bull then and Red Bull now. Obviously, the car and everything is much better now compared to 2017. But in 2017, they had Verstappen and Ricciardo as the two Red Bull drivers. Very solid lineup, not much to choose between them. Obviously, Verstappen's more up and coming, but very solid lineup. In the junior program, they then had Carlos Sainz, who had been there for a couple of years and shown what he can do, and Danny Kvyat, who I appreciate was going for a bit of a downturn at this stage, but he had also been at Red Bull and beaten Ricciardo over the course of a full season. The man could drive. And you then had next guy up, GP2 champion Pierre Gasly. That was such a good ecosystem. Like that, you could see each stage of development. And what we have now just doesn't compare to that at all. It's just, I know that they've promoted Hadjar in time, but Lawson and Tsunoda and getting rid of Perez, it's much more of a mess now than it was, I think, like 8 years ago.